Good evening, folks. I just thought I'd come on and let's have a conversation about Chicago. After going through all the news and being born and raised there in the Chicago area, knowing what I know, moving away in 2003, a whole lifestyle change to go from the inner city and the suburbs and that style, and then moving to West Central Illinois, rural, small town. Talk about culture shock. But I'm going to show you the reason I did it. I was going through the news and it's not too hard to miss when you listen to especially mainstream media, but when you go on the YouTube videos, there's a few YouTubers that I found that are actually from the city. So they're like my news because I'm not into mainstream. They trim and cut things and, put together captions the way they want to, and they miss the important stuff. So I'm going to take you through the current events. And then I'm going to take you back to what it used to be like. I'm using two different computers here, so it's a little confusing. Two mice going. I just got to learn to leave that one alone. Okay. Headlines. Rahm Emanuel, coy about his future. Critical of the Democrat Party. Emanuel is back at home in Chicago with a very blunt assessment of the election. But he is also very coy about his own future after his time in Japan ends next year. Anybody from Chicago remembers Rahm Emanuel? Was he good for the city? Gotta say, he's better than Lightfooter Johnson, but in the current events we got going on here, it was so disheartening to me last night. Teen found shot to death on South Side, and that was updated an hour ago. CPD investigating after 8 shot, 3 fatally at a Southwest Side house party. I watched that live, and it was in a private home. It happened about 2:10 in the afternoon yesterday. There was a gathering of some sort going on in the home. It was mentioned that the people in the home were visiting this country, looking for a new life. I can't be as descriptive as I should be, but you understand. I have to censor my words. Anyway, it broke out very violently. Um, 8 shot, 3 fatally. That was horrible. And it was in a neighborhood very close to where I worked. I mean, we're talking blocks away from where I worked in that neighborhood. It was in the Gage Park area. My father grew up in the Gage Park area. My father went to, now mind you, that was a lot of years ago. My father went to Gage Park High School. And I was very familiar with the Gage Park area because my grandmother still lived there. We'd walk around there like nothing. And my sister, when she got married, she bought a home in Gage Park. Her kids were raised right there. And then my son ended up going to Gage Park High School. Now, yes, it was already starting. Cultures were integrating when he went to high school there. And things started happening. And my sister ended up selling her home and moving further out. And people started to really watch themselves around the Gage Park area. So now, 24 years later, here I sit looking at my old stomping grounds, and this is the kind of stuff that's going on. I know why it's going on. Probably a lot of you can guess why it's going on. And then 3 hospitalized after eating gummy edibles at a North Side school. This is just the stuff that's on today's news. Solis cross-examination wraps up Madigan trial. Ah, yes, the Madigan trial. Illinois politicians. Madigan was in there for years. He ran the machine. CPS parents demand more widespread bus service. And I would imagine that's because they don't want their kids to go to a local school where they get assaulted trying to get in the building. Woman dies after being found on fire in an abandoned building. Man shot in Lincoln Park dies. 2 injured in a West Side building fire. What else we got? No, that's enough for now. And then that was on ABC News, Chicago's local station. Now let's go to WGN. Boy 15 shot in the head dies on the south side. CPD seeks person of interest in Lincoln Park. Boy 14 fatally shot in Little Village. ID. Wheaton man dies after Thanksgiving shooting. Uh, 15-year-old boy. Oh, I already read that one. All right, you get the idea about all the violence going on in the city. Let me remind you that current leaders and the previous leader were trying to cut the budget, so everybody in the city is chanting, defund the police, defund the police. Okay, they did that. Do you see the results? When you call the police, they're so bogged down that you're put on a wait queue, according to the dire need. And they're 2,000 cops short of their quota for the city that size, especially with that crime level. And they're $1 billion in deficit. So there's no room to have money for hiring. They're not paying overtime, from what I heard on another podcaster, that the police department their overtime got cut. And it's really disheartening what happened to that city. Because me growing up in that city, it was such a treat for my dad to take us downtown, especially during Christmas time. It's so beautifully decorated. I don't know how it is now. I try not to go to the city, although I still have family there. It used to be so beautifully decorated that it was a tradition when I was young that me and my siblings, my dad would take us downtown. We'd walk down what they call Magnificent Mile, but to us it was State Street, where Marshall Fields was and all the big stores were, and they'd have animated Christmas things, and every store window was a show in itself. And it was beautiful, just beautiful. And those were my memories of downtown. And then as I got older, I'd go downtown for just occasionally when I had to. When I was married, when I was first married, we used to go to the um, planetarium area right on the lake, and everybody used to do smelt fishing in the spring. Early spring is smelt season. And so everybody'd be on that sidewalk from Lakeshore Drive going to the planetarium. There'd be hundreds of people lined up on that sidewalk, throwing their big nets in to catch the smelt. It was fun. It was nice. It was friendly. All the families would go out and do it as a family, and it was just so nice, safe. We didn't have to worry about nothing. And that was back in the 70s, that the mid 70s, that we used to do that. And then I don't even know if they still do smelt fishing out there. It's been so many years. But these are the memories I had of the city. And then we thought nothing of walking around the downtown area, and we didn't have to look over our shoulders. We didn't have to clutch our purses if we had purses. We didn't have to clutch them up against our chest and hang on to them. Nowadays, you can't even walk around with a purse. You gotta hide. That's why you walk around the city, you see women go to pay for things. Don't be surprised if you see them pulling money out of their bra. I mean, that's the way it is. And but now you really have to be very, very careful about walking around the city. I mean, it's so violent. Drive-by shootings, you know, kid takeovers, teen takeovers in intersections. And there's so much crap going on. It's unbelievable. And it's the police, they're so busy. Like yesterday, when that shooting took place on 59th and St. Louis, the investigation that has to go into something like that and the amount of protection around the perimeter to keep people out of there takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of cops to do that. So the rest of the city, they're pulling cops in from different districts to help with this horrific scene. Well, you've got the violent ones, gangs, and those that want to fit in with the gangs. They're all running around the city like, it's the wild, wild west, and it's not safe to even be in a car and drive through some of these areas, many of these areas. And back when I left, my youngest was in high school still. Now, mind you, we lived in a suburb, and it was in the southwest side of the city. And the school that he went to, there'd be days where he would call me and say, "Can you pick me up? I don't want to take the bus because there's a lot of talk about a gang war going on close to where he gets off the bus." And I'd have to go pick him up on numerous times. I'd have to go pick him up so that he didn't have to take the bus home from school. And now that's a huge, huge school. I mean, it's just a enormous high school, and you don't know what you're going to deal with when for kids that go there. And it's just awful trying to raise your kids in that area. And that's why a lot of people are leaving the city. A lot of people. And now it's getting integrated. It's getting not integrated, invaded is a better word, for political reasons. Well, people in Chicago don't like that. People in Chicago don't want that. I listened to the town hall meetings where these people come in and address Mayor Johnson. They are furious because property taxes in Chicago are the highest throughout the country. And he wanted to raise it $350 million more on the taxpayers because of this billion-dollar deficit. Well, the reason there's a deficit is because your taxes aren't going to the citizens. Your taxes are going for sanctuary reasons. So nothing's getting put back into the streets, nothing's getting put back into the communities, nothing is being taken care of. There's no money because it's supporting housing for sanctuary reasons, food, EBT cards. And what do the citizens get? Nothing. So when you go and you listen to these town hall meetings and they're addressing him, you hear the anger coming out of them. You hear the frustration coming out of them. And if you think this is a Democrat city, they are flipping. They are flipping because they are now noticing the Daleys, Washington, all these prior mayors, Lightfoot, I know I'm missing one, Jane Byrne, Lightfoot, and now Johnson, all Democrats, all Democrats. Well, the Daleys, old man Daley, he ran it smooth. He kept order in the city. And stories be told by my father, who owned his own business downtown Chicago. He had very close ties to the gang leaders. And he gave them boundaries. They gave him guarantees that they wouldn't cross his boundaries. And he ran a tight ship. That's why when I was a kid, we were able to walk freely downtown and freely through the neighborhoods without worrying about, Well, it deteriorated after that because these gangs started branching off, right? And now there's a lot of different gangs, and they're getting younger and younger and younger. You got 11-year-olds that are carjacking, armed. And if you think I'm making that up, go to some of these YouTubers that are out of Chicago. And don't forget, I have family in the city. I know what's going on. I do my digging in the internet. I go on these channels and I look for people from the city. I want to hear them talk. I want to know what it's like. I want to know just how lucky I am that I'm 230 miles away from that crap. Do I miss my family? Enormously. However, I don't have to lock my car at night. Everybody here in town knows each other. I don't have to worry. I can freely walk down the street, walk around the block, go into any store I want to. I don't lock my car. I don't have to. It's so different that when I moved from Chicago to this little community, it felt like I left Illinois. It truly did. It felt like I was leaving the whole state and moving into well, they talk different than I do. The minute I started working in this area and the community saw me and got to engage with me, oh, the slack I took. Oh, you're that one that moved here from Chicago. When the hell are you going to lose that northern accent of yours? You don't belong here. Why don't you go back to where you came from? These are the comments that I got. Well, when they finally realized that because I bought a home, I wasn't going to go anywhere. So you either learn to get to know me and know that I'm not Al Capone or whatever. I don't know what they thought. I literally had one of the community people walk right up to me at an event that the town was holding. It's really cute events, nothing like not all the frills and bells and whistles of Chicago. But it's a hometown event and it's really cute. And I had this one woman who was in the clique of the community walk right up to me, got right in my face, pointed her finger at my face, and said, "You will not make this your little Chicago." And I just looked at her and I said, I don't intend to. I have my reasons for leaving Chicago. But if you think I'm going to put up with you sticking your finger in my face, you're going to see my Chicago personality come out. And that was the last time that woman ever engaged with me. Did I see her around town? Oh, hell yeah. You can't get away from people in this town. It's only got 2,000 people. We just avoided each other. I won't pull out. They called it a Chicago attitude. And I didn't understand that because I don't think I have an attitude. They thought I had an attitude. But I smiled and I was friendly to everybody. But I guess because I talked different, I'll give you an example. In Chicago, if you want a soft drink, a Pepsi or a Coke or something, it's pop. Call it pop. When I moved here, at my first job, it's called Sody. I didn't know what in the hell the guy was asking for. Sody? What is a Sody? So my boss was standing by me, and her and we got along pretty good. She knew the difference between the culture I came from and the culture that I moved to. So she told me, she goes, he's asking for a Pepsi or a Coke. And I'm like, that's a Sody? And she's like, yeah. She goes, what do you call it? I said, it's pop. And she started laughing and she says, "Oh, honey, don't use pop word around here." She goes, "That's not what that means here." I'm like, okay. Well, I wasn't going to call it sody. That just sounded ridiculous. So I got very used to calling it Pepsi, Coke, iced tea, whatever you want. There was a lot of things I had to change wording wise because they looked at it as a Chicago attitude. Oh, you're bringing your Chicago with you. Settle down, settle down. I enjoy your cows and your prairies and your cornfields just as much as you do. Don't know how to work them, but I like them. Anyway, that was in 2003 that I moved here. Now we're heading into 2025. Nobody looks at me any different. They still say I've got an accent, but I don't detect the difference. And now that I'm used to their cowboy slang, because they do, it's, I can't say it sounds like it's down south because it's not. It's it's like the cowboys talked in the John Wayne movies. It is what it is. I'm in a safe community. I enjoy the community. And I tell you what, if you're going to raise kids, these small town communities, the place to do it. I read stuff like this, and you could see I got my laptop over here. That's why I said in the beginning I'm running two computers. It's a little confusing. I go through this stuff and I look and I'm like, my heart breaks for the good people in that city that are either on fixed incomes because they're seniors or disability and they can't afford to move out. A lot of them won't move out because their whole families are there. And they feel stuck. And it's those kind of people that my heart really breaks for because I've been there, I've done that. I had the opportunity to leave, and I did. So my prayers are going to go out to the people of Chicago, the good people of Chicago. All these killings, mass shooting, all of these fires, burning people. This is the holidays, folks. These families now have to try and figure out what are they going to do for Christmas? How are they going to get through that holiday without that 15-year-old, 14-year-old? And the people that were in that mass shooting last night at St. Louis on 59th, yesterday afternoon, that mass shooting. There was 8 people and the 3 died. The others are in critical condition in 3 different hospitals. And so far, I haven't gotten an update as to who did it, who's at fault. Nobody's in custody. They're still, to my knowledge, the latest I looked. But the sad part about it is, this is already the third. Funeral services for those three are going to be next week. Autopsies got to be done. Stuff like that. So they're going to be right in the Christmas era that week. When the service is over, and now it's time to have real life hit you. My heart breaks for him. I've been there, done that. My son died on December 15th. So it really breaks my heart that these people have to go through that kind of grief. And unfortunately, I don't see a quick fix. I don't see a real solution. Yes, we do have an administration change, January 20th. But it's going to take time, a lot of time, to get into these inner cities and to clean them up. And that's federal versus state. So there's red tape there. We just got to pray. And I hope the city, the people of the city, the good people of the city, please watch your backs. Please watch your kids. Know where your kids are at all times. Make sure they're safe. Make sure you stay safe. Make sure when you're approaching your car from a shopping mall, don't be alone. Women especially, do not travel alone. And if you have to, be very, very aware of your surroundings. Okay? I just wanted to touch base on this, and for people who don't realize how bad it is, how bad it could get, and this is happening in California and LA, this is happening in Philadelphia, this is happening in New Orleans, this is happening in Colorado. It's not just Chicago. I'm just pointing Chicago out because I'm from there. And right now, Chicago seems to be quite the hot spot. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on what's going on. And on the flip side of this, be grateful. If you're comfortable in your area, show gratitude for that. Praise God. Thank Him for your safety and the safety that your children are in. And always be mindful of what other people might be going through, because you don't know what's in their thoughts, what's in their head, what happened in their life. You have no idea. So be kind to people. All right, I just wanted to touch base with you and fill you up with some information here. If you have any comments, let me know. I'd be more than happy to get back with the comments. And I hope you have a good rest of your evening. God bless. Be safe. Start to do that decorating, get that running and hustling done so that you can relax and enjoy and have peace of mind, have peace of heart, and feel the love that's abound. Good night, everybody.